differences would be maybe the wording is different, but the basic derivation remains the same as presented in the class. In such a case, we call it, it is only a remember activity, right? You are not deriving any new type of expression for this. If you are deriving completely new expression, then it can even go to create level. But generally, whenever we say derive an expression for something, it is in terms of what has been presented in the classroom, and essentially, are you familiar with that? To question that, as teachers, we ask such questions. So it does belong to remember. You can alter that energy stored in inductor or energy stored in capacitor or any other even higher level expressions. When you are deriving, it is only from what has been presented in the classroom. Now, can we go to the next one? Yeah, next query. In a present question related to 7, self-directed and lifelong learning demonstrate the ability to engage in independent and lifelong learning in the broadest context of socio-technological changes. The following options are: PO7 is important because helping students to understand their own learning processes, making students do a group activity, making students write 2-minute papers in some courses, requiring students to take responsibility for their own learning. Now, in this, the accepted answers were given as helping students to understand their own learning processes, are requiring students to take responsibility for their own learning. And the question was, because making students to write 2-minute papers in some courses is also, why not consider that as a trying to attain PO7? The idea is writing 2-minute paper is one particular, what do you call, instructional activity or a learning activity, you can say. The PO7 is, am I training you for lifelong learning? And in that process, I may use several different methods. But here the question is, PO7 is important because, not whether a particular activity can facilitate PO7. Okay, that's why in the nature of the question itself, the correct answers are given, and that's why that making students write 2-minute paper is not considered the right answer. I hope that clarifies. Next one, please. In a recent PO4 related MCQ, the following question was asked. PO4, individual and teamwork, function effectively as an individual and a member or a leader of a diverse teams and in a wide variety of settings. Which two of the key components of PO4 are not addressed by the core courses of general programs? The options: activities through e-groups, evaluation of students for their effectiveness as a team member, simulating systems using mathematics, understanding the limitations of a given IT tool. Okay. The accepted answers were activities through e-groups, evaluation of students for their effectiveness as a team member. However, this was marked as incorrect in the evaluation system. Sorry, just let me check. Why the answer is considered wrong, and my understanding simulating systems using mathematics, understanding limits are not relevant. Yeah, what the question is slightly kind of complemented. What key components of PO4 are not addressed in the core courses? In the core courses, normally you don't, we in the college, there can be exceptions, but normally you don't conduct any e-groups to do group assignments across, or you do not create e-groups for anything. And also, uh, and we do not consciously evaluate their effectiveness as a team member. At least we are not familiar with that, where some marks are given and which get added up to the final grade. So these two activities are not addressed, and these are the ones that will will contribute to PO4. Okay, these are not addressed. You can say simulating systems using mathematics is not really what do you call PO4 type of activity. I hope that makes it clear. The question is, these are not addressed, uh, issues related to PO4 are not addressed by core courses. Next one, please. Analyze and evaluate. Analyze explanation coincides with evaluate. What is that which exactly differentiate them? Okay, analyze as per Bloom, because we are interpreting these words completely in the context of Bloom's taxonomy. Because the problem is, analyze and evaluate are also used in a loose sense. For example, assessment and evaluation, you call it, and many times you use them interchangeably. And also, same thing, analyze is used in a generally in a commonsensical way, which is not wrong, which is in a daily conversation we use that. But in Bloom's taxonomy, both these words have a very definitive meaning. We are mainly using these terms, especially when you are using something related to teaching and learning processes. We only want to use these words in the context of revised Bloom's taxonomy. Now, analyze, it consists of, as we mentioned, three sub-processes. Okay, and first one is what we call differentiate. When something is presented to you, uh, in that there is a lot of information, you are trying to find out or what is relevant and what is not relevant, or what are the assumptions implicit or explicit in that, we are trying to find out. We are differentiating various components of the say what do you call a description that is given to you. And the second one is, from the description you are trying to organize the information. Okay, you're trying to organize, you're trying to determine cause and effect. And like, sorry, I come from engineering background, so I can give some examples from engineering. But what you try to put, let's say, a block diagram kind of thing. In a block diagram, you're trying to find out what is the input and what is the output of each block. We are not interested what is inside that. Can I identify all the elements of system and connect one to the other? There may be something which is not connected to the output at all. Okay, it has no impact on the output. So we are organizing information presented in that. And the third one is related to attribute. Especially in social science and humanities subjects, you are attributing what is the opinion of the author, from what point of view he has presented, or what are the things that are happening. You see changes in the output. You're trying to find out what is the reason for it from the information presented to you. Okay, this particular variable is strongly influencing the output, or this variable has no impact on the output. Whereas in social sciences and all that, you can say, this is the author's opinion. And he is presenting, he is coming to the conclusions based on his assumptions, something is right or wrong. So that is attribution. That is what analysis does. Whereas in evaluate, you are actually checking whether something is, when you say some description is given, whether from the data possibly that is presented, can the output be what do you call justified? Is it correct? You are just only checking the correctness of the information presented to you. That is one sub process of evaluate. Then the next one, which is much higher, from all the data that is presented to you, there can be, you cannot draw very kind of applying an equation, you cannot come to conclusion, but there may be several issues which are qualitative in nature. Then you have specific well-defined criteria as well as some qualitative inputs. From all that, you're judging something. Whether something is right or wrong, you are making a judgment. So next level evaluate sub-process is judging something. Or the technical word used is critiquing. Critiquing or judging, both mean the same in the context of Bloom's taxonomy. So with this difference, you need to design or your what you call instructional activity, or if you want to assess, you have to ask questions like that. Yes, generally it is difficult. It takes a lot of effort, but fortunately you have something like ChatGPT available to help you with that. Next one, please. Okay, a course outcome statement should have a dash, many, mostly one, one or two, three, two, like that. At least when the course was designed a few years ago, that was the kind of conclusion that we had come after extensive discussion and also based on the literature. And that is where we came to the conclusion that it is mostly one, the way it was presented to you. Now, why mostly one? Why not two? When you say mostly one, there are cases where you use two action verbs. The idea is, in any course outcome statement, you have four elements. One is action, the next one is knowledge elements, third one is condition under which this action need to be performed, which is optional, and fifth one is criteria, how well you have to perform your action. Okay. Now, if you keep aside the conditions and criteria, you have action and knowledge elements. Now, and we also said in Bloom's taxonomy, the cognitive levels are arranged in a hierarchical way. If I am trying to do an apply type of activity, that activity involves both remembering and understanding as well. So I don't have to separately write that. But sometimes when you are applying, you not only applying is applying a procedure. Maybe you can apply a procedure without fully understanding something, the underlying process, without understanding that possibly you can do. But if the underlying process is equally important, whereas the whatever main activity that you are doing, that is also important, then we use two action verbs. That is, you must not only able to solve the problem at apply level, but you should also be able to perform something based on understanding. That understanding is also equally important. That is where you can do. But I can also share with you, our present thing is, as long as the knowledge elements remain the same, now that's what said as presented in the course, mostly one was the position that was taken. And now we can say more than one also can be used. We can say more than one as well is acceptable technically. That's what the position we are taking now. But as far as way it is presented in your course, it is mostly one. I hope I clarified. Okay. Next one is, can you please explain social constructivism as learning theory? How is it different from behaviorism and cognitivism? As you know, historically, behaviorism was the first one because people at that time didn't know what was happening in the brain, no information about cognitive activities. So it was strictly based on what kind of inputs will lead to what kind of behavior, or what sequence of inputs will behave what kind of behavior, or how do I kind of introduce a reward and punishment system so that the students behave as a desired or as required. So these were the basic premises of behaviorism. It is not that it is irrelevant today, but it is a limited one. So we do many activities uh, as dictated by the behaviorist school. Cognitivism came more around the 1940s when people started understanding how are people thinking. Or then you identify the brain is performing some activities like attention, memory, mood. There are so many activities, cognitive activities. Then if I understand something about cognitive activities, how can I ignore and completely say my brain is a black box? Now it started becoming a gray box. Something we know what is happening in the brain. And that is where the whole, you can say, even Bloom's taxonomy, now we talk about some specific cognitive processes. This may not be, that is not dependent on complete understanding of how brain functions. We still don't know. We don't know how much we know also. So it is all based on observations. We are making use of that information to bring something to the education. So both behaviorism and cognitivism are simultaneously can be used, but exclusively behaviorism is not generally accepted these days. Though there are some people, uh, behaviorists think that everything can be looked at and they have solutions purely under behavioristic framework. Now, coming to social constructivism, sorry, can you go back once? Uh, you can, how do I learn? It's a learning theory. How do I learn? my learning is facilitated through social interactions. For example, we all know that, right? When I don't understand, I may not ask a question in the classroom, but I'll go back and discuss with my friend, and we debate a little bit until we feel happy with that. So, you learn by observing others or interacting with others. And the quality of learning and actual learning can take place through social interactions. And that is the reason why many places we have activities, what you call group activities. It can be an assignment, or as you can see in any co-curricular and extracurricular activities are all group activities. Through those things we learn. So that is the central principle of social constructivism, and all the three can be applied together. Yes, next one, please. What is instructional design? Is it part of OBE, and how does it help in higher order learning? Can you please give examples of instructional design? See, instructional design means, I'm sure as faculty are familiar with, in a classroom, you not only lecture, but after some time, you want to start a small dialogue. You ask a question, and some people respond to that. And the teacher will respond, again, give his or her reaction to that. So what happens is, in a classroom, or you work out a problem on the board, and another problem you give and ask students to work it out. And as a teacher, you will go around and see whether the students are doing okay or there has been some misunderstanding. Okay, so when you look at the activities in a classroom, you are not just lecturing alone. You are not only lecturing, you are discussing, asking questions, and tutoring as well by giving a. So there are various activities you plan intuitively. Okay, so arranging these teaching learning activities to facilitate learning is called instruction. Instruction means it is not lecturing alone, lecturing plus many other activities that you do. So to facilitate that, this intuitively most of the teachers do. But now what happens, now you look at it this way, what kind of activities do I organize that can facilitate better learning by the students? Now, if I ask that question, then you have to say, what are the activities that are available to me? We intuitively said lecturing, tutoring, and debate or discussion. Okay. But are there more type of activities you can bring? We call them as instructional components. Now, these instructional components, now you cannot use all possible instructional components. Some of them may not be relevant to the subject matter that you're discussing, nor some components, if you want to use certain resources you require, which may not be available. So depending on the context, you can define this whole thing as context. Depending on the context, you will organize your instructional activities. And which type of instructional activities do I put them together, or which should be done, is the instructional design. Now there are instructional design, instructional system design theories available. That is, how should something be done for better learning? So it is a kind of a prescriptive. When it is prescriptive, then it doesn't become unique. You're just saying if you do like this, students are likely to learn better. And that is where what we called Merrill's principles of learning are applicable, or there is what is called Kolb's uh, experiential learning principles can be used to design your instruction. Okay. And one instructional design thing that we can talk about is called ADDIE. Possibly it is not addressed in this course, TALG. Can I refer to instructional design roughly as teaching plan with methodology mentioned? See, teaching plan, when you look at it, you have something in your mind and you're labeling it as teaching plan. But the technical word is instructional design. So we have to use that. Teaching plan, if you write, you understand it clearly for yourself. Others may understand completely different. For example, I can say teaching plan is on day one, I teach this, day two, I teach the other subject. What you call your lecture plan is considered as teaching plan also. So there is a possibility different people will understand differently when you use a personalized word like this. Better to use a what is in educational literature, officially it is called instructional design. Okay. Yes. Next one, please. Can you please explain with a sentence of course outcome so that we can differentiate between action, knowledge element, conditions, and criteria, which are elements of course outcome learning? I thought we gave examples in the course. Simple thing. I can't ready examples from humanities and social science don't come. Say again, I will say derive an expression for Maxwell's or state Maxwell's laws. Okay, a science example. State means state is the action. You just have to state Maxwell's laws. And Maxwell's laws are the knowledge element. And if you want to put some condition, state Maxwell's laws, uh, giving an example. Giving an example is another additional condition. And then criteria, let's say I'll take another example. Solve an equation or find the root of an equation to the second decimal place. That means you want the accuracy is also part of the course outcome. Okay. So action, knowledge elements, and you can also make the whole CO statements rich by trying to incorporate, trying to address some of the POs in that. How do I rewrite my course outcome to address some POs? And this is where these days, at least ChatGPT can greatly help you, because working out for ourselves can take a very long time to produce. Uh, at least it will throw several alternatives from which you can choose as well. Okay. Yes, please. Next one. How do you say that relevance is an advantage of OBE? I'm not very sure. Relevance. Relevance, what aspect uh, to which you are referring this relevance to? I'm not very clear. I can't.
Sir, sir, this is Samrat here. Sir, just wanted to ask you, like in the OBE, you had actually said that number of advantages. Like for example, there can be self-directed learning. There could be also like clarity while we go for this OBE, because outcome-based education is basically like we're looking at end result, right, which are measurable as well as observable, as you say, where
Yes,
the product is a process itself. Like
yes,
final product is the main thing. So in the I understand the other advantages which you have listed in the course, sir. Like for example, clarity, self-directed learning, because it gives you the clarity as well as self-directed learning. He can choose pace his own learning. There is
yes,
also like other advantages which I am trying to recollect, sir. But in
yes.
one of the this thing is it is called as relevance.
Okay,
Why is it relevance? As one of
okay.
the first advantage is the relevance you've told. The other is discourse also, because it
Yeah,
gives the deliberations can be on a particular pattern, which is the instructional program basis. But why
yeah.
relevance, sir?
Relevance is uh, relevance, you can say focus.
Sir,
What happens is, as a teacher, when you're teaching some course, uh, as a teacher, you may have some preference over some topics. They're your favorites.
yes, sir.
Okay, and what happens? It's a simple, common. It's a common occurrence as well. Then what happens? The teacher is likely to spend more time on that particular topic, give more examples, feel a little excited about it. It is all nice. But in that process, what happens, because our time is limited, the other topics are likely to not get their due attention. And that is the reason why in OBE, you first you write, if you want that particular topic to be very important, say so right in the beginning and spend more time on that. How do you spend more time? You say, instead of four classroom sessions, because I consider the topic is important, I will give six to that, or maybe eight to that. But in that process, what happens is you the other topics will have to get less time, because the total number of hours in a semester for a 3 credit course, at least until now, it is 45 classroom sessions. Actually, a teacher has no right to give more than 45 classroom sessions, just because he wants to pack more and more topics into that course. We have no right, though many places they do. And they say they'll take extra lectures. That is not fair either to the students. When you try to teach too much, or then the whole learning is becomes only superficial, because you don't have time for addressing so much. Neither the student has that much time for learning every topic deeply. You cannot brush it aside saying that students are not very serious, they don't want to work hard and that kind of thing. No, it is maybe I should bring it to your attention. Possibly it will come soon, because NAC has officially not released the new uh, new, what do you call, their accreditation rules. Whereas the National Board of Accreditation, which looks at engineering programs, they have already done that. Now, universally, what is happening is uh, the number of hours a student needs to spend in a semester in learning activities. It can be in the classroom, laboratory, fieldwork, or in the library, whatever that you do, because especially now you are coming with online learning, flipped classrooms, blended classrooms, all kinds of things are coming. The officially now it is being stated, if a student spends 30 hours of learning time in a semester, that is called 1 credit. How you want to spend, let's say, especially when there is field work, I will have less number of lectures but more time for the field work. That is a choice done by the teacher, but he has to declare how exactly he's going to do and how he's showing that 30 hours for one credit. So, but whereas we have seen courses where they say, I have to give 80 lectures for in this subject without knowing that much material. He is not a graduate in that particular thing. There are just too many places who follow that. I have to give 80 lectures. If you want to call it 2 credits. If you want to call 4 credits, that is not my botheration. But I will give 80 lectures during the semester. So this attitude cannot be taken by the teacher. Now, to put everything in place, you require some order. So first thing you say, define what a credit is, and then the course is described not merely as a list of topics, because you don't know to what depth each topic needs to be taken. Then you write course outcomes. Course outcomes should be written in such a way the depth is implied in that. Okay. And the assessment should be in alignment with that. Instruction should be in alignment with course outcomes. So all these are now bringing in so that you call it whether it is relevance or systematization, all these are built into giving a course. And mind you, doing all this, you are in no way constraining the academic freedom of the teacher. First of all, as maybe 80% of the institutions in the country are affiliated and university decides the curriculum, anyway, the teacher doesn't have any autonomy. Where you have, there is no restriction on, for example, what course outcomes have to be written. Okay, because you are designing the curriculum. How you want to teach, that is your decision. How you want to assess, that is your decision. So in an autonomous institution, you have no restriction on the choice that is available to the teacher. So the only thing is communication, because somehow in education is the only field in the world, not only in India, anywhere, there is no terminology that is formally defined. Officially, even today, it's not available. What does it mean? I use different words to mean the same thing. Sometimes one word to mean several things in different contexts. So when two teachers are talking to one another, use the same word, do they really mean the same thing? So we try to bring in some kind of order by formalizing a little bit of the processes and the terminology. So the entire OBE is, whether you want to call it a relevant to with respect to a goal, whatever goal that you have implicitly or explicitly. I don't know whether I've
Yes,
explained myself to you.
Yes, yes. Thank you.
In the table of distribution of metrics, KIs across institution, which is used by NAC for quality indication framework, what do you mean by A criteria are key indicators and quantitative qualitative metrics? Give examples. I have to pull out from that, but this is fairly clear. The NAC, what like it wants to, that is you seek NAC accreditation. How does it NAC accredit? Then they had 7 criteria under various headings. It can be about faculty, it can be about infrastructure, it can be about students, various things. They have 7 criteria. But just because by naming criteria alone, you cannot measure anything, right? And when you put criteria, you are assigning some marks to each criterion. Total should always be 1,000. That is the convention that is followed by not only in India, elsewhere as well. Whenever you are trying to determine the quality of an organization, you start with 1,000 marks. That is divided into a set of criteria. In NAC, it is 7. And then you discuss which criterion is more important, which is less important, because it's relative, right? So let's say if you consider faculty, their ability or their qualifications, they are all important, or their research work, it is important, then give more weightage to that. Generally, in all accreditation process, they recognize faculty as the change agents. They are the key elements in the whole system. So you give more weightage to them, more weightage to criterion related to teachers of the college. So what happens even when you do that? How do I measure the quality? Then I divide further them into key indicators. For example, I can say with respect to faculty, um, number of years of experience they have, or do they have industry experience, or what kind of qualification do they have? They all become what you call key indicators. But that key indicator has to be measured. How do I measure each one? For example, you say experience is important. If he has 5 years experience, or say a range you give 4 to 5 years experience, I will give 1 mark. If it is 5 to 10 years, I will give 2 marks. Something like that. You have to convert that into a number. So that is the final metric. So there are 3 levels. And incidentally, whatever that has been presented to you, because this course was designed about 5 years ago. Now, NAC has announced that it is changing the entire set of criteria, the metrics and all that, but they have not officially released the document. Okay, so we are waiting for them to say exactly how the whole thing is to be modified, which will happen hopefully sometime during maybe September, this kind of time. Okay. I hope that answers your question. In general program, how many POs should be there? Is there any compulsion? Who will decide it? In case of general programs for which the TALG is designed, the POs are decided by the institute. Now you have variety of institutions. You may have only degree college as we call it. Only is, let's say you have BA, BSc, some BCom programs. But now what about a private university or any university, public university? A university offers so many type of programs, including engineering. Even a medical program can be there separately for that. So when you have vastly different departments or schools, now they call them schools in universities. So it's a matter of decision. If it is a smaller college, the entire college will have one set of POs. But if it has multiple schools like this, each school can have a set of POs. A management school can have one set of POs. Engineering school can have one set of POs, which are given by actually NBA. One doesn't have to worry about what to write. And if you have a school of humanities and social sciences, you can write your own set of POs. And this is the choice of the school or the institute. Now, do you want to write 4, 5, or 10? That is your choice. Whatever you consider important. And sometimes why we call it general programs, the graduate of a general program is not necessarily making making a profession out of the discipline in which he is graduating. If I have done a BSc in physics, it doesn't mean that all graduates of physics BSc program are working in some activities strictly related to BSc in physics. So they may take some other profession. So it's a kind of a general qualification, it is treated. So if any professional, if you now look at it, what kind of knowledge and attitudes or skills he should have at the time of graduation, not at the time of post graduation. And those constitute the POs. Okay, I hope I made myself clear. Then 12, in the cognitive, pardon?
Is there any minimal, this many POs must be available like that? No minimal condition is there. Normally in engineering, POs saying, and now it has been reduced to 11. But
Yes.
in general program like that, any minimal this much at least should be there. Like that, there is no.
No, there is not. But you can't capture in 2 or 3 what you consider as the graduate at the time of graduations, the ability. At least you can come with 5, 6 comfortably. Beyond that, and the place where you can check, there is a lot of work done by different organization. What should be the attributes of a graduate? But in India, we have a complicated history. Because of the Britishers, we ended up with 3-year programs, and we refused to easily budge from that. And except Britain in the world, now all undergraduate programs of any kind are a 4-year duration. Okay, now even about 10 years ago, when government tried to convert everything into 4 years, all teachers violently objected to that, giving all kinds of reasons. And now the government, it took 10 years for it to come down through a back door and say, yes, you can have 3 years and you can have 4 years. And they tried to come with a mechanism in NEP where all the things can be integrated. And they said multiple exit. If you want, you can exit at 3 years, or if you want, complete your 4 years. Because 4 years is necessary for a reason, because it is compatible with programs everywhere in the world. If you want to go anywhere else, they will not recognize a 3-year program. You have to somehow make up for that extra 1 year in some other way. Okay, coming back to this, any graduate, after all, is going into some profession. That profession, any profession that you go into, will require some characteristics. Simple thing like you should be able to communicate. Doesn't matter what you're going to become, a teacher or a lab technician or a administrator, anywhere you should be able to communicate. And all professions, it is a group activity. Nowhere you can say one individual doesn't become an organization. So you should be able to be a good team member. And then you're also saying things continuously change. The environment keeps changing, technology keeps changing. Whatever profession that you're doing, you have to constantly learn new things. So lifelong learning is a characteristic. I have to prepare my students to be lifelong learners. Okay, 3 are common thing. And then whatever you do, you're going to influence the society as well as the environment. So what is your relation to your activities relationship to the environment? So you have to be sensitive to that. So some facility about environment is now becoming compulsory, and they're stated through what we call sustainable development goals. Okay, that is one more. 4 are required. Now, besides this, academically, what kind of characteristics do you want? You can write them as There is another one today. Everything is done by through using computers and AI. You have some familiarity. Can I write one like that? There is computational thinking, you can say. So if you do like that, you easily can get about 6 to 7 smallest number. Now, beyond this, if you want to go up to 10, 11, you can write. But then you have to make sure they are attained. You are designing your curriculum so that the students are trained in that area. Okay. I hope I made myself clear. No,
Thank you, sir.
welcome. One more. In the cognitive level, sometimes apply can be interpreted as understand and remember. So how to differentiate between these three cognitive levels? I thought it is fairly clear. Apply will
Specific,
imply understand and remember.
sir. I
Yes,
have one
please.
specific doubt actually on this aspect, sir. I understand
Yes,
very much that when we remember, it is the cognitive process of actually remembering it. I mean, it is a very much a process of learning, which is actually by completely remembering it. Understand is
yes,
the application of that one. Remember, it's one level higher up, and you try to uh, uh, apply that one in some sense or the other. I mean, the how you what you remember. But when it
yes,
comes to apply, I feel what was the reason for the Anderson Bloom to actually give it as a separate level? Because when we remember and understand, because understand is actually includes also remember, because of higher level of cognition level. So why did they crafted another level, sir, of applying?
okay.
And
Now,
secondly, I fail to understand, like,
uh,
if it is a higher level, because when I say apply, it is definitely apply plus understanding as well as remembering, right, sir?
yes,
So why did AB, I mean Anderson Bloom taxonomy actually created the third level of apply, and how do you differentiate in a normal parlance, sir?
okay. Let me explain to you.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Simple
Uh,
way, sir. If you can explain, sir, please.
yes, uh, we are now referring always to revised Bloom's taxonomy. Okay. Okay, in original
Yes.
taxonomy of 1956 of Bloom, the word understand was not accepted. They use the word comprehension.
Yes.
We need not go through why it is not accepted. But in 2001, when the whole thing was reviewed by a large number of people, then they brought the word understand because all teachers continuously use the word understand. But then the original objection was it is not something measurable. Understanding, how do I measure? So they said, what are the activities that you do under understand? So they've defined 7 sub-processes, activities. I suppose all of them we mentioned. If any of those activities you do, it comes under understand. Same thing about remember. There are 2 sub-processes, recall and recognize. Any of that. Same way, uh, highest level in understands sub-processes comes under what you call explain. Then you have giving, compare, exemplify, okay, summarize, classify. Like this, you have 7 sub-processes. Now, all of them are very clearly defined. Each one of them is clearly defined. Now, in understanding, whether when I'm comparing the two, I may be doing a little bit of simple arithmetic or simple calculation, right? Say this is when I'm comparing A with B, B is bigger than A. I have to come to that conclusion. It may involve small amount of calculation. Whereas now they require something like apply. In apply, you have 2 sub-processes. One is execute. The second one is implement. There are 2 types of applying. some process has been defined for you in the class to solve a problem or to compute something. A series of steps are given. Okay. And or like writing an algorithm, or writing a code, for example. Now, when you that is called execute. If you have very specific set of processes, specific number of steps that need to be executed, we call it execute. Okay, let's say you want to find the roots of a polynomial. There may be multiple processes. Then I would say solve this particular problem using this method. Then that is execute. That means there is absolutely no doubt about what series of steps you have to apply to solve the problem. Whereas I may get into some situation where I want the student to solve the problem, but I don't know what the process should be or what kind of uh, mechanism should I use to solve the problem. That becomes implement. So in a way, implement becomes a much higher level activity than execute. So obviously that is quite different from understand. Just because there is a small calculation involved in doing some activity under understand, it doesn't make it apply. And the apply can stretch a little bit. For example, you find certain process you finally found out is applicable here, but when I actually apply to given situation, that process also doesn't satisfy. I may have to slightly tweak the process. Then it becomes goes up to create. So one thing you should remember, you cannot put a clear demarcation line between one cognitive process from the other. We are trying to kind of give a structure to something that is happening in the brain where we hardly understand how the brain works. There are no lines that are drawn in the brain, say whatever happens in this part of the brain is called apply. No, it doesn't happen like that. So there is certain amount of blurred boundary between two cognitive levels. So as a team, if you understand what is implied, then the instructor will have to use his judgment in saying, okay, this belongs to that. But certainly applies different and a higher level than understand and remember.
Sir, when
Yes.
we talk about apply, it is a set of steps that I'm actually interpreting, right? It's
Like
a set
an
of
algorithm.
steps, set of variables that I'm actually trying to solve the problem. So in that case, it will be apply. But sir, in the sub processes of the understand also, there's something which is classify, summarize, as well as compare. So here it is very, is it qualitative data only that we are talking about in understand? And there is also a sub process called explain. So in the understand itself. So are we talking about the fact that when we're talking about understand and sub process explain also, it is only talking about probably a kind of like interpretation to do with only qualitative data, and where I'm actually translating, paraphrasing, and something like that. I'm overall trying to compare things. But when I'm
you
trying
have
to
used
break the
all the
things,
sub-processes in your sentence.
okay,
We are differentiating. Explain is a fairly large one. If you are required to model something, like derive some equations to explain the input-output relationship, then also it is explained. Okay.
So it is applied, right? In that case,
no, you're trying to find out a model for your thing. It can be a mathematical model, or it can be simply block diagram. Some you're performing modeling. That belongs to explain. Now what happens is, for us, unfortunately in India, explain is a question that we ask for which the teacher will have to award marks whatever the student writes.
Yes, yes, that is it.
Explain something means if I write two sentences, I have to give.
Obviously.
If I write two pages, also I have to give.
Right.
It's a kind of it is a non-specific. We have converted into a non-specific and a useless way of testing the students.
Right.
Those are the traditions we built, and on top of that, if the question is predicted by the students, saying that it is likely to come, then I mark the answer. When I mark the answer, it doesn't matter. Officially, the question may belong to apply or even create. But if it is a completely known question and with the answers already prepared, everything is reduced to remember.
That's
So you can give me a very high and higher order learning question. It can be converted into a remember question.
I could understand, sir. This is more with mathematically applies more to do with mathematical things like determine, calculate, compute, estimate. So something
Yes.
I can relate to actually mathematical and analytical brain actually analytical working of that. Same.
Just a minute, please. Yes, Sudha. Yes. We can close. Yeah, I'll give a quick response. Yeah. Okay. Sorry, the time is getting up. I will just complete. Next one, please. 12 we have answered. 13 is in the Pierce Gray taxonomy of affective domain. Please explain the differences between perceive, react, conform, validate, and affective judge. Affective create with examples, sir, of these and how to differentiate among these levels. That is a very long one. You want me to repeat that lecture? I suggest that you kind of, if you don't mind, please listen to that particular unit. And incidentally, Pierce Gray taxonomy was, though it was proposed almost in 90, it hasn't come into actual use. Now the current thing that is being looked at is there is one taxonomy of emotional and social domain is presented, and that there are large number of specific professional programs are also designed, and we are recommending that you go for what is called Goldman Boyardz's four-quadrant framework for, you can say, affective domain. Affective domain is a much larger word than emotional and social domain. Okay, I will leave it at that, but it will take a very long time to explain all these 5 terms. Next one, please. Where are the differences between idealism and existentialism? Wow. Okay, I'm not that much of an expert in either of them. There are two philosophies, and we mentioned that there are two, and we are not expecting you. I hope you are not a philosophy student. Then, even if I explain, there will be a lot of differences of opinions. So, I will not dare get into details of giving a long session on idealism and existentialism. Yes, thank you. It's a good, so many questions have been raised, and the session was at least useful to me.
Can
I
we
hope it
have
was
also
also.
another session, sir? Can I request you, sir?
Yes.
Can there be a possibility based upon your convenience, sir? Maybe another doubt clearing session can be arranged, sir, before the exam.
Before the exam, I have to, because it is the NPTEL organization will have to help me. If they can set the time and give a time slot, and organize that, I don't have any issue. I can provide. But if you ask a question like what is the difference between idealism and existentialism, it is not going to happen that easily. Where one is you can send some questions on through email, but if it is a long answer, it will also be difficult for me to write long responses for that. Yeah, if there is a slot available, because the NPTEL conducts so many courses, they have to have slots available for live sessions as well. Okay, so I will leave it to them. If it is a simple thing, you can send me an email.
Okay, thank you.
Welcome.
Sir, thank you, sir. We'll close the call, sir.
Okay.
Thank you.